Mounting the little angles to the wing. I'll just go in there like that. I marked it. Marked where the holes are going, and that's where they are. Now, a regular drill would have a hard time getting in there because it's too big. So I've got my little extension on there so I can drill those straight in without having to worry about being bent out like that. One little handy old tool that my dad had that's come in handy. You never know where these holes are going to go until you're getting everything together, and then you're fighting trying to get those holes in the right spot. So got those done. We'll do the middle one next, and I've already got this outside one done. I did the outside and the inside and had it sitting there, and then I could mark exactly where the middle one had to be so that it's a nice smooth swinging motion. I'll show you when I'm done. Alright, still have to get nuts for the AN311A bolts here and here, and on the outside, if you remember, I've got the Horner wingtip, so I added that blocking in there. So these bolts are a little wider. They're 14As, but I've got that set on there, basically how it's going to go, and she works smooth as silk. What I did in a few places, I go along here, these are just sticking out, so I'm going to trim them all off. I just sanded a little bit there so that it's tight but not touching there. All the way along. One of the things with the plans, they've got a corner block in there. I don't know what that is. This really isn't to scale. If you put this to scale, that should be a 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch gap there. There's no way that there's going to be a 1/2 inch gap there. That is only about maybe a 1/4 inch gap. So I couldn't figure out what the hell they're talking about with that corner block. But if you come to the plans, they call this little piece right in there, that's the corner block. And it's just a little quarter angle. And they say at each end on each rib to put that little piece. Now, I don't know if anyone's got any answers, but that doesn't make any sense to me. You're going to have fabric coming and wrapping around that. That is not a nice, clean transition for fabric to be wrapping around there. Especially if you've only got these sticking out on the ribs. There's going to be holes poked through fabric and all kinds of weird stuff going on there. So I'm going to continue this quarter block, quarter round, right up equal with my ribs, so it's a nice smooth. And then I'm going to continue that all the way down through each rib. So what you're going to have is this is going to be built up to there, so it's equal with the rib on the end of the ribs here, on the end of the wing. And then there's going to be a quarter round in there so that the fabric's going to lay nice and flat, come around the corner and lay flat against the corner round, and then down the back spar. from what I'm seeing on the plans, it says finish this, leave those sticking out, put a little cord around underneath each rib. But then you got these things sticking out. That's just going to be, I don't know how you're going to put your fabric around that. So I'm extending this piece, the top piece and the bottom, will come right to the end there. And then a cord around is going to go the entire length like that. So it'll be a nice transition along and then down the back spar. Unless someone's got an idea how that's actually supposed to work, that's what I am going to do. Just reading through the plans, trying to figure out what to do. So, refer to the print to position the outboard flap torque tube support and inboard flap torque support. These are now glued and clamped in position. But when you go to the plans, it says don't put them in until you have the wing tanks in. So, not sure what that means there. And the only thing that's even said, the aileron torque tube should be installed per print at this time. Also the flap torque tube per print. Recheck the wing washout. On the prints, there isn't even a torque tube or a flap tube anywhere. I've looked through all the plans. There is nothing for the flap or the torque tube specifications or anything. You've got on the big prints here where the flap geodetic or whatever they call these, the flap mounts that go, I guess. But it says temporarily tack in place before installing the geodetics and then wait until the wing tanks are in. So, I'm not sure what to do there, and the only thing they've got for aileron torque tube is where to mount the torque tube, but it doesn't say how long it is, what size it is, where it goes, how far it sticks out the end, anything. And in no print does it even show a torque tube in place or how to connect the torque tube to the aileron torque tube horn. So, unless somebody has a set of prints that I don't have, I see absolutely nothing that shows how to put in the aileron or the flap torque tubes. The only thing it has in the parts list is the size, but again it doesn't have the length because it has cut to fit. So I know the longest I have to get, but I don't know exactly how long to cut it or where it even goes or what holds it in place because there is absolutely nothing to describe that. Has someone got a plan that shows a torque tube anywhere? I'd like to see it. All right. Cutting these little filler pieces. Don't throw away all your scrap geodetic stuff, because you're going to use them for filler pieces for here and on the bottom side. And then you're going to take another filler piece and put it on top all the way along. And what this is going to do is right equal with the rib, so the fabric's going to come over top and come down. It's going to be a nice curve, so that fabric will wrap right around there nice and smooth. And you want the fabric coming down and right across. If you didn't have that in there, there would be, when you're pulling the fabric tight, it would do all kinds of weird stuff. So you want a nice clean surface all the way down. Which brings us to where the aileron is, and you're going to have an aileron well in here to get better aerodynamics, I'm assuming. I've been looking at this and pondering what to do. The way they have it in the plans, it's really hard to tell what they've even got in the plans. It's non-existent. I think I'm going to cut these right off, and I'm going to build an aileron wall out of a piece of solid, they use pine. I've got a scrap here. So I'll take a solid piece and run it all the way along and cut it at an angle so that it comes down. So you're not messing with putting filler pieces in here and cut and putting filler pieces. Cut it off, and for the entire length, you just have a piece in there that comes right up to the top of the rib, and then would be, I don't have enough hands. Then you can just machine it at an angle right across there. So you've got a nice well for the aileron to fit in there. Now the question is, do you do all that after you put the fabric? Because the fabric's going to be all the way along here and coming right down. If these little aileron wells were off of here, you would have a nice place to put the fabric straight down and then mount that aileron well that you're going to build afterwards on top of the fabric. That way, the fabric's got a nice curve to it all the way along, and from the transition where the flap is to the transition where the aileron is, if you have fabric, you're going to have the fabric coming out now, coming in, along, out, and that way. So there's going to be the aileron well that's in there, but the fabric's got to have to curl all the way around that. Whereas if you took a large sheet of fabric and just laid it over there and you didn't have that aileron well on, put the fabric all the way around and then create that aileron well afterwards. What do you think about that? I don't know what anyone else has done with their Dakota Hawk. I still haven't seen one. I'd like to get a picture of that close up. I'm going to go on to the web and look at Danielle's build and see what she's got on there. She's pretty good for having detail, but I haven't looked at that yet. All right, let me know what you think.